Welcome to the final talent pathway video, where we will be covering the topic of the relative age effect. How do we define this? The relative age effect refers to the specific selection, participation and attainment advantages or disadvantages which occur as a result of physical and cognitive differences within annual age group cohorts. They arise from when a birthday falls within a year. Birthdays are grouped into quarters. Quarter 1 is September to November, Quarter 2, December to February, Quarter 3, March to May, and Quarter 4, June to August. In sport, the older players, so those in the first and second quarters, will perform at the higher levels in their youth years. This is due to the simple fact of them being older, bigger, stronger, and faster. This leads to talent identification, making the mistake of selecting mature players over higher ability players. However, the selection process can benefit those in the later quarters in sports that require you to be small and agile, such as diving and gymnastics, therefore putting them at a massive advantage. This isn't the case for many footballers, however. It leads to these later quarter players becoming better at skills such as dribbling and body positioning, as they would have needed to gain an advantage some way or another. Although some of the greatest footballers have been much smaller than their counterparts, such as Messi, Pelé, and Maradona, just to name a few. Now let's look at some considerations of the relative age effect. Quarter 1 performers are big, strong and tall. These performers are more likely to win games due to their physical presence rather than their technical ability. Also, these performers are less likely to work on their technical aspect as it is not needed in their eyes. Life will seem relatively easy until they start to get caught up, which will lead to many of them to start falling, as life isn't just a stroll in the park as it once was when they were kids. In comparison, the Quarter 4 performers will face adversity and challenges from the start and will have to cope with size, weight and strength issues. This will lead to them naturally becoming more technically gifted. This can be classed as a trauma and a great way to build mental strength and allow them to deal with difficulties when they are much older. Finally, one way that has been found to combat these problems is systems like the NBA, NHL and NFL drafts, as they do not include their birthdays, as this may affect any sort of selection. To conclude this video, we are going to look at the 3 effects where the relative age effect is present, the first being the Matthew effect. This suggests that athletes that are born closest to the cut-off date hold a higher chance of being selected. This not only accounts for youth sport, but for adulthood as well. According to Gladwell in 2008, the discovery that birth month can have a dramatic effect on the success in sports. Next is the Pygmalion effect. As Short in 2005 stated, this effect is when coaches form expectations about their athletes based on their physical appearance, personality, or information concerning their past achievements. Horn et al. In 2008 added, expectations can also be based off stereotypes regarding build, race, height, and even the athlete's socio-economic status. Finally, the Galatea effect. This effect is one of self-efficiency, the belief and trust in oneself and one's abilities and potential to succeed. In sport, this can be seen as players evaluating their ability by comparing themselves against peers. In professional sport, the top players do this. To conclude this video, we're going to look at how should the relative age effect influence practice. Fortunately for athletes, this process generally evens out after the age of 17 and may even reverse as less developed athletes negotiate and interact with a variety of methods to handle a more physically developed opponent. However, talent identification systems may be missing opportunities to nurture world-class athletes by releasing them from their academies and systems during vital learning periods. This is during the ages 11 to 16. Although there are some benefits to being born in the earlier quartiles, some studies have shown that this can lead to early specialization, focusing solely on one sport, and overuse injuries in later years. In conclusion, whilst it is evident that relative age effect does exist, it is difficult to quantify how this affects an athlete's holistic development throughout their youth experiences. This is increasingly challenging as a child born on the 28th of August and the 1st of September, which is only 3 days difference, can be separated by an entire academic school year, at least in England that is. It is therefore important that the relative age effect is considered when selecting and identifying talent in the both athletic and academic environments in order to account for any under and or over performances. Overall, it is important for talent identifiers to consider the relative age effect when assessing youths, as biological maturity can often be mistaken as superiority, which in most circumstances is not the case.